When DICE changed mortars, allowing them to be placed in headquarters, I said it didn't really make sense because it wasn't truly addressing the underlying problem, and it would likely create new frustrations instead. Since then, I've seen growing complaints in the community as to how oppressive mortars feel on certain maps and sectors. So today, I want to go a step further and talk about what I think DICE could actually change to make mortars feel more balanced. To start off, I want to make this clear. I don't think mortars are the real underlying problem here. I think mortars are exposing certain map and sector design issues, specifically on Breakthrough. Because when attackers are already being funneled through weak approaches, when certain sectors don't actually give enough room to breathe, and when defenders can sit in an extremely safe position, mortars become even more frustrating because they're being layered on top of an already bad gameplay situation. So for me, the best fix would still to be adjusting certain map boundaries, reworking some of these sectors a bit more, and addressing the way that those early engagements play out on specific Breakthrough maps. But if DICE isn't going to do that, then the next best option is to look at how mortars function as of right now and reducing how oppressive they feel in the current setup of the game. Now, some people are going to point out that drones are one of the counters here, but I don't think that really solves much. They're far too limited to be a dependable answer, and trying to buff them would likely just create a different set of balance issues, which is exactly the kind of situation we're already in now with the mortar changes. So to me, the better question is not how do we force drones to fix this, but how do we make mortars themselves less oppressive and more balanced given the gameplay and the maps. I think that the main issue here isn't the mortar itself, but the ecosystem around the mortar, especially with it being tied to the support class. Because right now, the support class can just do way too much for the mortar all at once. As of right now, you can sit on an ammo bag and shoot your mortars faster. You can use the ammo bag to replenish your mortars once they're destroyed. This all increases the uptime and the pressure that they can apply with the mortars. This can keep pressure going far more easily than if it was with another class. On top of that, they also have access to the APS system, which can intercept incoming mortar shells and help protect against one of the more direct counters to mortar use. And this is where the design philosophy overall begins to fall apart, because now we're talking about this not just being a frustrating gadget, but it's a gadget that's highly self-sustaining and can be cycled too easily and can be defended by the same class that's using it. And to me, this is the major reason why the mortars feel so oppressive right now, especially in Breakthrough. If DICE is committed to keeping mortars in their current general role, then I think one of the first things they should consider is moving mortars to an entirely different class. To me, something like the engineer class would just make more sense. And the reason for that is simple. The moment you move mortars off support, you start removing a lot of those synergy problems that I was talking about. This would reduce how quickly players could get a new mortar up, since they would have to seek out an ammo bag instead of having that built into the same class. It would also lower the rate of fire a bit without easy access to ammo, and it would also prevent the same class using the mortar from also shielding it with the APS. Now, obviously, some of that could still be achieved through teamwork between support and engineer, but that's a lot more different than one class having all of that utility by itself. So this change would introduce more trade-offs, and I think that's what mortars need right now. More friction, more commitment, and less self-sufficiency. Because again, I don't think the problem is just that mortars exist. I think the problem is that they're too easy to sustain relative to how disruptive they are. Now, to be fair, I don't think moving mortars to another class suddenly solves the bigger issues with Breakthrough. It doesn't fix poor sector flow, bad attacker approaches, awkward map boundaries, and it doesn't fix the fact that some of these engagements are already frustrating before mortars even enter the equation. So what I am presenting is not a real long-term answer, but it is a cleaner short-term change that, if DICE is going to leave these maps and sectors largely as they are, would be helpful. Because if they're not going to solve the actual environmental cause of the problem, then they need to at least reduce how abusive mortars can feel within that environment. So for me, the bigger issue here is still the map and sector design, but if DICE is not going to address that right now, then moving mortars off of support feels more like a better short-term change that they could make. It would create more trade-offs and make Mortars feel less self-sustaining in their current form. But I want to know what you think. Do you feel like Mortars need a change like this, or is the real problem still the way that these maps and sectors are designed? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I'll catch you on the next one. RAMTEID out.